Jabahaya Jorabahaya Utaka Abaya Agni Ibahaya.
Where the mind is, proposed by Venerable Ananda. And we know when the Buddha asks, where is the mind to Venerable Ananda? The purpose is to examine the root cause of samsara. In our modern context, it would be the OS of samsara, which is the function of the illusory mind. And Buddha asked in a very skillful way. The Buddha never asked, Ananda, where is your illusory mind? Or where is your true mind? The Buddha didn't ask in that way. Instead, the Buddha asked, where is your mind? So if Venerable Ananda, or if you put yourself into Venerable Ananda's shoes, if you were asked, where is your mind? How would you answer such a question? And we have tested through our interaction with the participants here. Most of us will say the first answer is the mind is inside the body. Exactly how Venerable Ananda answered to the Buddha. So, if we are using the illusory mind to live, to survive in the rest of our life, then we are still bound to the cycle of rebirth. Why is it so? Because as we all know, the prologue for the Shurangama Sutra was spoken on the condition where Venerable Ananda was seduced by the Matanga's daughter, Prakriti, the prostitute, and Venerable was hypnotized by the Kapila spell, and he was caught in such a embarrassing situation. And luckily, Buddha sent forth Manjushri Bodhisattva with the aid of the Shurangama Dharani. The Kapila spell was broken, and Venerable Ananda and Prakriti were brought back by Manjushri Bodhisattva to the Jeta's Grove and received the instruction. So, why Venerable Ananda was caught by this Kapila spell and seduced by this prostitute? And according to the sutra, the reason was that Venerable Ananda was very well known in his superb memory. Whatever the Buddha teaches, he can remember and memorize everything. So it means that in our context, he has a superb memory. But because of this superb memory, and he was lacking in his actual practice, especially in gaining the samadhi. That's why his samadhi power was not enough to counter such a seduction when a event happened. So when he came back to Jeta's Grove, Venerable asked the Buddha, he was very regretful that he didn't really practice hard to develop his samadhi power. Instead, he depended very much on his superb memory. He thought whatever he could remember is good enough for his liberation. And in actual life, it was proven it is not. So he really repented, and he said, now I want to cultivate, to develop his samadhi power, and asked the Buddha whether there's such a way of cultivating. The Buddha said, yes, that's called a Shurangama King Samadhi, where it consists of Susamatha, Susamadhi, and Sudhyana. And the Buddha further asked him, why did you renounce from your palace life and follow me in the Dharma and cultivate as a monk? And Venerable answer was, because Buddha, I saw you were so gorgeous with your 32 hallmarks. And to me, in the worldly life, there's no such person that can have such a gorgeous 32 hallmarks. And we see the Buddha features is very charming. And to Venerable Ananda, this kind of gorgeous appearance, 32 hallmarks, could not be called inherited from the parents, because in the human DNA, he thinks this is not possible. So the outcome, the appearance of the Buddha should be a effect of the cultivation from the Buddha. So in order to have a good looking in our context, he wants to have good looking as handsome as the Buddha. So that touches him that, oh, yeah, I should renounce my palace life as a prince and follow the Buddha to cultivate so that I can also gain the 32 hallmarks one day, which look like the Buddha. And the Buddha said, okay, quite good. But Ananda, do you know that because of this kind of mind that distinguishes what is good looking, what is bad looking, this kind of mindset is actually the OS of samsara in our context, modern context. If you use the term of the sutra, it will be this kind of discriminating mind is subject to the cycle of rebirth. That's why the Buddha asked Ananda, where is your mind? Buddha wants to find out the root cause of samsara. Help Ananda to investigate, find it out, and then to cultivate. But Ananda had given 7 answers. First one, he said the mind is inside the body, and the Buddha said no by giving some reasons. And the second answer was the mind is outside the body, and the Buddha said no. And then the third one, he said the eye is actually hidden under the eye faculty. The Buddha said no. And the fourth answer is Ananda said, when we close our eyes, we see brightness, is seeing outside. When we close our eyes, we see darkness. This is called seeing inside. And the Buddha says such a claim could not be true as well. And then number 5, he said the mind is in the middle, wherever you think. And the last one, the 7th one, is where there's no attachment. And Buddha gives the reason that could not be the scenario. So none of the answer was correct. Why? Because Venerable Ananda was still using the illusory mind to think of an illusory answer. If you use an illusory mind to think of an answer, because the source is already illusory, how true could the answer be? So when we use the illusory mind to think, to perceive things, whatever we perceive, they will be all illusory. They'll be all wrong. That's why Dhamma, of course, we can somehow investigate and analyze the Dhamma, but after analyzing the Dhamma, they are still conceptual. Please grasp the word conceptual. Even though now everybody is inside the class here, you may gain some new concepts today after this the class, but please remember, whatever we have learned, they are still conceptual. It's still at the conceptual level, which is an outcome. After your 6th consciousness, your mind consciousness has digested the content and become a new concept. But this concept doesn't equal to the Dhamma. The real Dhamma, it must be gained through your own experience. You must experience it yourself. Then only that you see the Dhamma. Please grasp the word experiential. Experiential. Okay? Conceptual versus experiential. So Dhamma, after learning the theory, you must put into practice. So the reason why Venerable Ananda was caught in the Kapila spell was because he just learned the theories and he stopped at the conceptual level of the Dhamma. And he didn't really work hard to develop his samadhi power to gain enough experience with the Dhamma. That's why he was caught in the Kapila spell. So the whole Shurangama was spoken on this very message. And the Buddha even further gave another analogy on this in the later topic in the Shurangama Sutra by saying that the Dhamma that the Buddha has spoken in terms of voice, the medium of instruction that the Buddha was giving is through voice, through his voice. He said, the Dhamma that I'm speaking is actually voice. And voice is actually one of the defiling objects, right? We know there are 6 defiling objects: form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and Dhamma, the mind object. And this voice that the Buddha is speaking, of course, the contents of the Buddha's voice is actually the Dhamma, but it's actually not the Dhamma, the Buddha said. Then what is it? The Buddha has given this analogy. The teacher is using the finger to point to the direction of the moon and ask his student to look at the moon. Okay? And if the student has mistaken that this finger is actually the Dhamma, then he will miss the chance to see the actual moon. Now we are in the mid-autumn. The moon tonight is so bright and so big. So if you If you mistaken this finger as the moon, then you will no chance to appreciate the beautiful moon in the sky. And this is the analogy. So the Buddha said, the Dhamma that the Buddha is speaking in terms of the medium of voice, and in our age is in the medium of words that written in the scriptures, the text, the sutta, right? They are all mediums. They are all fingers. Okay? They are not the real Dhamma. They are just fingers pointing to the direction of the Dhamma that through the mediums of words, the sounds that you're listening now, the sound objects that you're listening now, through the mediums, after you have gotten the concepts, you have to put into practice. Only through practice, you will see the true Dhamma. At the very moment you experience the ultimate Dhamma yourself, that's the moment you gain enlightenment. Understand? So, why Venerable Ananda could not get the correct answer? Because he still don't know how to use a true mind. He's still what you call using the illusory mind to think. That's why Dhamma is not something that like what you call the scientists or the scholars, after they give a lot of reasonings, a lot of logics, we call inferences. You can get the answer. Dhamma is not something like that. And the Buddha even taught us in the Kalama Sutta that we cannot follow any inference, logical conjecture, inferences, reports, or even scriptures or traditions to trust something. And this is the reason why the Shurangam Sutra was spoken in this way. Okay, so today our tutor Sharon will share with us a topic. Then, what is actually illusory mind and what is actually true mind? Do you want to know? Okay, then pay attention to her delivery today. Okay, welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Sifu. That the illusory consciousness is not the mind that the Buddha is referring to. Let's look at what and why is this mind that the Buddha is talking about. Let's continue the dialogue between the Buddha and Venerable Ananda. Then Ananda stood up in the midst of the great assembly. He uncovered his right shoulder, placed his right knee on the ground, put his palms together respectfully, and said to the Buddha, can I invite In Fong to be my Ananda for tonight?
My pleasure. The Buddha has bestowed his loving kindness on me as his youngest cousin. But now that I have entered the monastic life, I have continued to presume upon his kindness. And as a result, all I have done is to become learned, and so I'm not yet free of outflows.
So let's just look at a couple of terminology so that we can understand it better. So Reverend Ananda uncovered his right shoulder, placed his right knee on the ground, and put his palms together respectfully. Uncovering the right shoulder and placing the right knee on the ground and putting the palms together and then speaking represents the purity of the three karmas. The purity of the body karma is represented by uncovering the right shoulder and placing the right knee on the ground. The purity of the mind karma is when the palms are put together. So when the palms are apart, we have a lot of minds, but when it is together, we are one mind. The purity of the mouth karma is when he spoke to the Buddha. Therefore, the purity of the three karmas, the body, mind, and speech, are represented as in Venerable Ananda's request of Dhamma. So Venerable Ananda has regretted that he has not practiced correctly to go beyond the first level of arhatship. He was a Strotapanna at that time, and he was not free of outflows. That means he has not reached the fourth level, an arhat, where one puts an end to birth and death. Let's continue.
Since I could not resist the Kapila spell, I was lured into a house of courtesans, all because I did not know how to find the realm of true reality. I only hope that the world-honored one, out of pity and great kindness, will instruct us in the path of calming the mind, will guide people who have no trust in the Dharma, and will counteract the wrong tendencies of the uncivilized.
When he had finished speaking, Ananda bowed to the ground and with the rest of the great assembly, prepared himself with keen anticipation to listen reverently to the teaching. Now, the realm of true reality here means the fundamental true mind, Venerable Ananda admitted he was confused by his own intelligence and couldn't see a way out. So Venerable Ananda requested the Buddha to guide those lacking in faith, those who have no trust in the Dharma, and those with evil and wrong views, which is those who have wrong tendencies of the uncivilized. So the Venerable Ananda and the rest of the assembly waited with anticipation to the Buddha's teaching. I think Venerable Ananda's words to the Buddha requesting instruction is, in my opinion, very relevant today, because we have tonight about 130 of us wanting the same instruction. This is because many of us have learned knowledge. We have learned the theories and the sutras, but we may not have put the theory into correct practice in everyday life. So after that, at that time, an array of lights as dazzling and as brilliant as 100,000 suns poured forth from the world-honored one's face. 6 kinds of quaking shook the lands of the thus-come ones, and an infinite number of worlds appeared throughout all 10 directions, all at the same time. So an array of lights as dazzling, as brilliant as 100,000 suns. Just imagine, with one sun, we already close our eyes with discomfort. With 100,000 suns, well, it is necessary, I guess. The Buddha's light needs to be as dazzling to destroy the darkness of ignorance. Sifu asked me before this question, why did the light pour out from the world-honored one's face? Why not his hands? Why not his body? So it's interesting because he told us the answer after not getting any answer from us. All our 6 faculties, the instruments for enlightenment, are already with us, right on our face, yet we are unaware of that. So when the Buddha poured the light from his face, he's already giving us an indication that the wondrous luminous mind is at our sense organs, but yet we do not know it. 6 kinds of quakes. The 6 kinds of quakes indicate the overthrowing of these 6 sense organs so that we can be awakened. Infinite number of worlds appeared all throughout 10 directions. So the 10 directions are the 8 points of the compass. There's north, south, east, west, northwest, southwest, northeast, southeast, and the direction of up, which is a zenith, and down, which is a nadir. And everybody come together. The Buddha's awe-inspiring spiritual power caused all these worlds to merge into a single world. And in that world, all the great bodhisattvas, while remaining in their own lands, placed their palms together and listened. All realms come into one, and all beings listen with reverence. This is kind of like what we are doing in the Zoom room right now. People from all over the world coming together to listen to the Buddha Dharma without having to leave their country or even to leave their rooms. The Buddha said to Ananda, since time without beginning, all beings, because of the many distortions in their minds, have been creating seeds of karma, which then grow and ripen naturally, like a cluster of fruits on a ruksa tree. What the Buddha meant was that since even beginning of time, living beings have been deluded, leading to the creation of bad karma and the retribution of suffering. Now, this is like that of the fruit on a ruksa tree. The ruksa tree is a shrub found in India, and this is a very special tree in which it bears 3 fruits on a cluster on one stem. So life after life, aeon after aeon, living beings have been on this endless cycle of death and rebirth. Let's look at a pictorial representation of what the Buddha meant. So this picture represents the Buddha's analogy of the ruksa tree. We sentient beings have been on a cycle of death and birth, starting from delusion, then we take action or karma, and resulting in retribution. And this is in a continuous, unending flow. Until now, we are unsure whether at any one point in time, we are experiencing retribution or karma or delusion. And probably we are experiencing all 3 at each moment. Let's continue what the Buddha said. People who undertake a spiritual practice, but who fail to recognize the ultimate enlightenment, people such as the hearers of the teaching and the solitary sages, as well as celestial beings and others, such as demon kings and members of the demons' retinues, who follow wrong paths or fail because they do not understand two fundamentals and are mistaken and confused in their practice. They are like someone who cooks sand, hoping to prepare a delicious meal. Even if the sand will cook for aeons numberless as motes of dust, no meal would result from it. Many Buddhists and many externalists to achieve the ultimate goal of enlightenment because they are confused as to how to practice and how to cultivate. Now, if you cook sand forever, you will never end up with any tasty meal. So if we do not understand the two fundamentals and we practice wrongly, we won't end up in the destination we want, which is Nibbana, no matter how hard we practice. So before we practice and cultivate, we need to understand what are these two fundamentals. The next slide is very crucial for all of us to pay attention to, as the Buddha will explain what the two fundamentals are. Ananda, what are the two fundamentals? The first is the mind that is the basis of death and rebirth, and that has continued since time. Without mind is dependent on perceived objects. And it is this mind that you and all beings make use of, and that each of you consider to be your own nature. So this is the mind that Ananda has been using, and this is the mind that he has answered the Buddha where the location of the mind is. So this is the mind he's talking about. The second fundamental is full awakening, which also has no beginning. It is the original and pure essence of Nibbana. It is the original understanding, the real nature of consciousness. All conditioned phenomena arise from it, and yet it is among those phenomena that beings lose track of it. Now, this is a very important paragraph, and I'll read it again. The second fundamental is full awakening, which also has no beginning. It is the original and pure essence of Nibbana. It is the original understanding, the real nature of consciousness. All conditioned phenomena arise from it, and yet it is among those phenomena that beings lose track of it. They have lost track of this fundamental understanding, though it is active in them all day long. And because they remain unaware of it, they make the mistake of entering the various destinies. Here, the Buddha in this slide explained the two fundamentals. Number one, the conditioned mind, and number two, the true mind. We are aware and fixated with the conditioned mind, and we are unaware of the true mind, although it is with us 24/7. The true mind is with us and yet lost to us. Now, actually, I have come across this idea of that there is this thing called a true mind, and I have for many years I've attended many I would call externalist programs to seek the authentic self, the true self, the limitless consciousness, the original self, or perhaps even the soul. And in other words, the true mind. There is peace, no thinking, just love, just inspiration. And when I get it, well, I'm afraid to say that I'm still looking for it. I'm getting it that it could be because I'm using the illusory mind to search for the true, plus I'm looking outside for it. Because we cling to the mind that seizes upon conditions and remain unaware of our true mind all the time, we blindly go to the 6 destinies or realms, even though we did not intend to go there. So the 6 realms of devas, asuras, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings. Let me show you a pictorial representation of the illusory mind and the true mind. So the gray shape picture represents the illusory mind, which is the cause of birth and death, but it is the mind that we know so well and the mind we are so enamored with. We use it day and night, even though we are asleep. So this is the mind that is the cause of birth and death. This is the bright, luminous true mind, also with us 24/7, but most of us remain lost to it. So this is the true mind, the bright essence of consciousness, fundamentally pure and clean substance of Nibbanic enlightenment, realized by all past Buddhas. Now, being unaware of our true mind, we use our false thinking mind. And it has been more than 2,500 years since the Buddha Shakyamuni. So our illusory mind has grown bigger and bigger, making it seemingly more challenging to access our true mind. Let's continue with the dialogue. Ananda, because you now wish to know about the path of calming the mind and wish to be subject to death and rebirth no longer, I will question you again. Then the Taskam one raised his golden-hued arm and bent his 5 fingers, and he asked Ananda, did you see something? Ananda said,
I did.
The Buddha said, what did you see? And Ananda said,
I saw the dust-come one raise his arm and bend his fingers into a fist that sends forth light, dazzling my mind and eyes.
The Buddha then said, when you saw my fist emit light, what did you see it with? And Ananda said,
all of us in the great assembly saw it with our own eyes.
So now Ananda is calling in witnesses. Everyone saw the Buddha's fist emitting light. And the Buddha said to Ananda, you have answered that the Taskam one bent his fingers into a fist that sent forth light, dazzling your mind and eyes. Your eyes can see my fist. But what do you take to be your mind that was dazzled by it? And Ananda replied,
the dust-come one has just been asking me about my mind's location. And my mind is what I have been using to determine where it might be. My mind is that which has the capability of making such determinations.
So what Ananda basically said in today's terms is that, Buddha, you asked me where my mind is. I've searched everywhere for it. And now I think the mind is the what that is able to investigate. That is my mind. To which the Buddha then reprimanded Ananda, but with compassion. The Buddha exclaimed, Ananda, that's not your mind. So let's see Ananda's reaction to it. Startled, Ananda stood up, placed his palms together and said to the Buddha,
if that is not my mind, what is it?
The Buddha said to Ananda, it is merely your mental processes that assign false and illusory attributes to the world of perceived objects. These processes delude you about your true nature and have caused you, since time without beginning and in your present life, to mistake a burglar for your own child, to lose touch with your original everlasting mind, and thus you are bound to the cycle of death and rebirth. So what the Buddha said to Ananda was that the illusory mind, which we hold so dearly, is merely a tool that mentally processes the signals that we perceive through our senses. So these processes that you are so aware of have deluded you about your true nature, about the true mind, until you have mistaken a burglar for your own child. So mistaking your illusory mind for your true mind, mistaking the burglar to be your child, one day the burglar will take everything from you. At least it gives us a chance to wake up from this dream and be enlightened. So let me do an experiment. It says here the illusory mind that we hear hold clear is merely a tool that mentally processes the signals we receive. So I'd like to do an experiment. So let me just stop, sir. Let me stop, sir. Can I request Thank you so much. I'm just going to show you a picture, and then I'll ask you what you see in the picture, and I'll ask you what you hear in the sound. All right. Can see? I have a photo here, and this is a picture of a fruit called the noni fruit. What do you see on the noni fruit in this photo?
I see some insects.
Oh, so
They look like
the color,
insects
the
with
shape, perhaps.
6 legs and black in color.
Oh, black in color. Okay. So, what do you think this insect could do to you? What do you feel about this insect? What do you think this insect can do?
When they crawl on you, you'll be very ticklish, and maybe they might bite you.
Ah, so you think that the insect could cause you some pain, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. And keep it on because I have a sound for you. I'm going to play you a sound. You tell me what you hear, okay? So, what did you hear?
I heard sound of thunder.
Here, sound of thunder. So what does that mean to you? Is there any meaning to you?
It probably means it's raining.
It's raining, and if it rains, is there any particular thing that you would do if it's raining?
I would maybe, if I'm outside, I would start running to a shelter. If I'm
Okay.
inside, I would maybe think about whether my laundry is outside and keep my laundry.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's talk a little bit about the experiment, which involved two of our senses. So we just now, brother was using his sense of seeing and the sense of hearing to answer my questions. And many years ago, somebody asked me this question. I still remember it. So the person asked me, Sharon, what do you think is the function of your eyes? And my answer was that the function of the eyes is to collect visual data. What about the ears? And my answer was to collect sound data. What about the function of your nose? Well, smell or olfactory data, the tongue, taste data, and the body, well, touch and contact data. Then the final question he asked me was, so what's the function of the mind? So this is what the Buddha is talking about, and this is what was experienced by brother just now. When you look at the end, the mind actually receives the information from the eyes, and then start to recall that this is a creature called the ant, and then start to imagine what the ant might do to you. The same when your ears collected the sound data of the thunderstorm. Yeah, and thank you so much for describing or imagining, or it may be from your experience that when it rains, if you're in the house, you will look to make sure that your clothes are not outside and getting wet. And if you're outside, you will run towards a shelter. So you have given us a very clear example of the function of the mind, which is the sixth consciousness. And what the Buddha said is to process information or data it receives. So the mental processes include perceiving, recalling, reasoning, analyzing, imagining, in short, thinking. So this is the mind, mental processing, or what the Buddha called the illusory mind. So let's have a look at what happens to Venerable Ananda, what his reactions were. Ananda said to the Buddha,
World-honored one, I am the Buddha's favorite cousin. It was my mind that loved the Buddha and led me to enter the monastic life. That mind of mine has been responsible not only for my serving the dust-come one, but also for my serving all Buddhas and all good and wise teachers throughout as many lands as there are sand grains in the river Ganges. It has always been that mind that has marshaled great courage to practice every difficult aspect of the Dharma. If I were ever to slander the Dharma and forsake forever my good roots in it, that mind of mine would be the cause even of that. If this activity of comprehending is not the mind, then I have no mind, and I'm the same as a clod of earth or a piece of wood, because nothing exists apart from my mind's awareness and its knowledge. Why does the dust-come one say that this is not my mind? Now I'm genuinely alarmed and frightened. Neither I nor anyone else here in the great assembly is free of doubt. I only hope that the dust-come one, with great compassion for us, will instruct all those among us who are not yet awake.
Thank you, Ananda. So Venerable Ananda is now shocked, confused, and fearful after hearing that what the Buddha said. Now, we in this Zoom assembly, we are no doubt as frightened and confused. What do you mean? My mind is just a processing machine and it's not the real thing? This is rather scary for me because I've attended many classes, things like mind science, the power of the mind, the secret, how to use your mind to attract whatever you want. And now the Buddha tells me, and confirmed by Sifu, that I have been activating the wrong mind. I actually feel faint. So just now you saw the words in italics. I only hope that the thus come one with great compassion for us will instruct all those among us who are not yet awake. So Venerable Ananda requests the Buddha to teach him and the rest of the assembly, whom he is using his illusory mind. The illusory mind loves to assume that he assumes that the rest of them are in doubt like him. Of course, there are many arahats and bodhisattvas, but remember, Venerable Ananda was still using his illusory mind. And I bet you that here we are all sitting at the edge of our seats, waiting for the answer from the Buddha. Are you ready to find out where your true mind is? Well, you have to wait a little bit longer, because next week, Brother Ang, on the 9th of October, he will share with us the illusory consciousness has no substance. So today, the summary for me is that the illusory consciousness, the mind that we are so in love with, the mind that we use every day, is not really the true mind. It's just illusory consciousness.
A very wonderful presentation and very eye-opening one. Okay, so we'd like to touch some of the concepts inside the presentation just now. Firstly, about the what you call the protocol of requesting for the Dhamma. As you can see in the Sutra, when Venerable Ananda was asking for the instruction, I have to put the rope in this way by exposing the right arm, and this is in Pali we call the ekansa, to show respect to the master, and this is an Indian culture. Why we have to expose? Why we all monks we have to expose the right arm? Do you know? Do you know the reason why? Sharon, do you know the reason why?
It's because the left is supposed to be unclean. The left hand especially is used for other bodily functions. So exposing the right is exposing your clean self.
Yeah, as we all in Malaysia and Singapore, I guess you should have a lot of experiences with your Indian friends, right? And you know how they eat, and even our Malay friends, they eat with their right hand, right? Sometimes they don't use spoons and forks, right? Why they use the right hand only, even though they receive gifts from you or they give things to you? Yeah, because the left hand is used to wash after you go to toilet, right? Yeah, so same thing. I mean, even though nowadays the condition in India as well, they don't really have like toilet papers. And if you really go for India for pilgrimage, sometimes you need to go for doing your business in the open air. I guess some of you follow Sifu to India, you got that kind of experience, right? So there's no toilet paper in India somehow even nowadays. So needless to say, during the Buddha's time, right? So the left hand is, after we go to toilet, use the left hand to wash. So the left hand is quite dirty and smelly, right? And sometimes they don't have soap and whatever. That's why right hand is considered pure. Okay, pure. That's why when we expose the right arm, it means we are using the pure body action to request for the Dhamma and respect to the Dhamma and the teacher. Okay, and this is an expression. Okay, so what can we learn from this sentence? Are you going to expose your arm when you come to the temple? No, not really, right? So what should you do? Okay, actually, we should learn the spirit, not exactly. Somehow, some culture we cannot copy exact, right? We have to learn the spirit. When we request for Dhamma, we have to call a request in a very respectful way. And even in the Vinaya, the code of discipline, when you request for Dhamma, you cannot be at the same level with the master. What does it mean? If you notice, every time when we are in the Zoom session, the host will announce, now let's invite the Venerable to ascend to the throne of the Dhamma Asana, right? But right, Sifu is already sitting here, how to ascend? There's no ascending to anywhere. Why must say so? Because the teacher of the Dhamma, the master, okay, and the students, they cannot be on the same level, must be higher a bit according to the Vinaya. That's why the host announce or now invite the master to ascend, means now already different level already. So it's actually in compliance with the Vinaya where the Buddha had set. Okay, so same thing when you go to a temple and you have some questions to ask the venerable. Whenever I have such a question in the Dhamma, whatever, please make sure both of you are not at the same level. Okay, if the master is sitting, you have to kneel down. Okay, if the mother is on the stage, then you are on the ground, then you can ask. But if you are on the stage, the master is on the ground, you cannot ask. You are disrespecting the Dhamma as well as the master. And it's actually against the Vinaya, the rule that the Buddha has set. And same thing, when you are lying down, the master is standing, then you cannot ask Dhamma. And when you and the master are walking, also cannot ask Dhamma. It's not proper time. So make sure you ask in the proper time, proper place, and proper position. Yeah, the Buddha makes it quite strict. Being the reason, the more you respect to the Dhamma and the master, the more you can learn. The deeper you can accept into your very bottom of the heart. This is the purpose of the Buddha setting such kind of rules. And also eating. So if you go to some Theravada temples, I'm sure you should not have the chance to eat on the same table with the venerables, right? There's no way you will sit same table with the venerables. You can only find it in the Mahayana or Vajrayana practice, right? Yeah. So these are the protocols. Okay, this is one thing. And so second point, as just now in the sutta, it mentioned the Buddha emitted lights from his face, and we know what does it mean by that, because all our six senses, our six faculties, they are all located on the face here: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. Face also a part of body, and also the mind. So what the Buddha wants to hint to us is that the luminous mind, the true mind, the mind that is beyond all conditions, the nirvanic mind, they're actually located within the faculties, and we are unaware of them. That's why the Buddha demonstrates in this way, so that for us to have what you call a sense of it. But unluckily, not everybody understands the meaning of the demonstration, of the show of the Buddha has just shown. That's why the Buddha explained with words later, explain further. But if those with high faculty, once they see, they will know what the Buddha is trying to hint. Actually, but the Buddha asked Venerable Ananda, where's your mind? And Venerable Ananda could not give the correct answer. Actually, what the Buddha was doing by emitting lights to his six faculties, actually the Buddha is giving a clue to Venerable Ananda. Hey, the mind within your senses, within your faculties, if you know how to use it, that's where the mind is. Actually, that's the clue. And then when the Buddha asked Venerable Ananda by holding his fingers, what do you see? And then I said, I see feet. And then you use what to see? And then Venerable said, I use eyes to see. Not everybody uses eyes to see, uses eye to see. And then what do you take as your mind? He said the capacity of determination, the mind that can analyze, study, and that is the mind. Actually, the answer is really wrong. The Buddha's given the clue. The mind is within the faculties, but he still couldn't catch it. That's why later on the Buddha scolded him. No, Ananda, that's not your mind. That's the logic of the sutra here. And why is the Buddha emitting light through the faculties, the six faculties? The nature, the characteristics of the true mind, the unconditioned nirvana, is actually equivalent to luminosity, light. That's why the sutra uses the word of wondrous, luminous, true understanding, true awareness, wondrous, luminous, this kind of expression. The true mind is actually very, very luminous. And when we are in avijja, in Pali or Sanskrit called avidya, we are in darkness. The expression is darkness. That's why when we close our eyes, you see all darkness. And if you cultivate, your mind will become brighter and brighter. And this is not merely an analogy, it's actually so. This term of luminous is not only found in the Surangama Sutra, where we categorize it as a Mahayana Sutra, but in the Theravada Sutta, in the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha also uses the same term explaining the mind, which is luminous. Okay? As in the Anguttara Nikaya 1:50 to 53, Pabhasara Sutta, the Buddha mentioned, luminous monks is the mind. So for repeat, the Buddha said, luminous monks is the mind, and it is freed from incoming defilements. The well-instructed disciple of the noble ones discerns that as it actually is present, which is why I tell you that for the well-instructed disciple of the noble ones, there is development of the mind. The more you develop your mind, the brighter, the more luminous you can see. And how can you reach to the state of luminous mind? The Buddha said, it is defiled when you are away from all incoming defilements. And actually, this luminous mind, the Buddha said, luminous monks is the mind, and it is defiled by incoming defilements. Luminous monks is the mind, and it is freed from incoming defilement. What does it mean? Same thing, the same PowerPoint that Sharon, or I think we changed name lah, Supati lah. Since you got a Pali name, just use your Pali name instead of your English name. Okay, so Supati shared the presentation just now. You got a slide of the luminous true mind versus the gray illusory mind. You still remember that picture? Actually, in the fundamental condition, it is supposed to be luminous, the white color. But because we have avijja and it's darkened. So exactly what the Buddha said in the Anguttara Nikaya. The luminous mind now plated with incoming defilements. That's why it's get darkened. And when it is freed from incoming defilements, it's supposed to be luminous. So exactly the concept of the Shurangama here. And the Buddha said, the more you develop your mind, the more the mind will become luminous. That's why if some of you have the experience in meditation or have gone to the retreats, maybe you chant Amitabha, 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 or you meditate, or you chant the mantra, and somehow you will see lights. And why even though I close my eyes, there's no light there also, so bright one? Actually, the mind is bright. When your mind is dark, that is abnormal. That you are in illusion, avijja. Avijja is called wu ming in Chinese. Wu ming. This ming actually in the Pali Sanskrit is supposed to be no knowledge, and the Chinese can be also like no light also. It's actually quite equivalent. So how to get back the true mind? How to cultivate the true mind? The Shurangama recommends us to use the awareness of the 6 faculties to cultivate. Use it to get back to the stream. And why is it so? And it's actually, there's a reason, because the mechanism for us to be in the samsara is actually come from the 12 nidanas, the 12 independent of origination. From avijja, we have vijnana, consciousness, and then we have mental formation and so forth. And then later on, we have the indriya, the senses, the faculties. And after we have faculties, we will have contact. Faculty will contact with the objects. The eye will contact. Just now, your eye faculty contacted with the object of ant, and your ear faculty contacted with the object of sound of thunder. That's contact. When the faculties come into contact with the external objects, they will arouse your feeling. Vedana. Then, when you have feeling, you will have either you love it or you hate it. Correct? Just now, when Ong saw the ants, they could be after got the feeling, oh, this ant, if it is ticklish, then maybe I don't like, so I hate the ants. So if he had a very good experience with the ants last time, he'll say, oh, this ant very gorgeous. I love it. Or the sound of thunder. After the ear faculty came into contact with the sound object, and then it would create a feeling within Ong. Good feeling or not good feeling, listen to the sound. Maybe good or maybe not good. That's where your judgment comes in. When you have judgment, good judgment, you love that situation. If it is a bad judgment, you will hate the situation. So you will have love or hatred. Then later on, what's next? Then you start to, the things that you love, you try to grab it. Oh, this picture very good lah. Can you give me a Supati? I want to save in my PC. You grab it, right? And if you hate the end, that picture of the end, Supati, please take it off. Don't let me see. Very annoying lah, right? Correct? So grasping, there are two. You take it or you leave it. They are also considered grasping. And when you have reached that kind of state, you have created a new set of karma. That's called becoming, bhava. The new set of karma. You have done an action. You've done an action, either rejecting the picture or getting in the picture. And this karma is actually the seed, the file, trigger your future life or your tomorrow. Don't talk about future life, we can't see. Just talk about tomorrow. The bhava of becoming not only will trigger what will happen in next life, but the future. For example, Ong, he likes the picture very much. He asked Supati, Supati, can you give me the picture? SMS me, WhatsApp me lah. Then I save in my PC. So once he has done the action, Supati has WhatsApp him the picture. He saved inside his PC. And tomorrow, Ong can on his PC, switch on the PC, and that picture will appear on his screen PC. And that's we call the new becoming. So tomorrow you got something to play with. This is called the concept of karma. Why you have next rebirth? Why you have tomorrow and day after tomorrow? Because you always create a new set of karma through this kind of processes. Faculty, contact, and then feeling, love or hatred, and then take action. After you've taken action, then you must have a new becoming. So if you don't stop it, this link, of course, Sifu just used a few origination to tell, actually there are 12. There are 12. Supposed to just talk about from the 6 faculties there, because the Shurangama emphasizes on the 6 faculties. So the Shurangama emphasizes, before your faculties are contacting with the external objects, you have to control them and uses them, the seeing awareness or the hearing awareness, the smelling awareness and so forth, to cultivate, to get into the stream and get back to the unconditioned nirvana. This is the direction, get back to the home of liberation. That's why the Buddha demonstrated in that way. And thirdly, we know the mind that we are using every day in our daily life is an illusory one. And the Buddha said the mind that we are using we use to analyze things, to understand things, it is just a mental process. It is not your mind. Why is it so? Because such a mind is a conditioned dharma. Such a mind is conditioned by the objects, external objects, defiling objects. As the Buddha has said, luminous mind is the mind. And it is defiled, the Buddha said, and this luminous mind is defiled by incoming defilements. So actually you have what you call a luminous mind. And because when these kind of signals of forms, signals of sounds, signals of taste, of smell, of touch, and mental object, when they enter through your senses, and if you further grasp them and have perception on it, in Pali we call sanya, and they are actually just mental processes. And the Buddha said, Ananda, you don't take these mental processes to be your mind. It is actually a skanda, one of the skandhas. It's not your mind. And it is subject to impermanence, anatta, non-self, and dukkha as well. Why? Because sanya, perception or mental processes, they are also impermanent. Why? Because they are conditioned by the impermanent objects. So if you take this as your mind, then you'll be in disaster. This is what the Buddha is trying to mean. Why? For instance, we'll give you an example. Just now, in Ong's mind, he got the perception of ants, and also the perception of the thunder sound, correct? And if there's no ants shown to him just now, if Supati didn't show him the picture of the ants, and if Supati didn't play him the sound of the thunder, could Ong have the perception of ants and the perception of thunder in his mind just now? Could that be? Couldn't, right? Why? Because that kind of mind, we call sanya, to be exact, sanya, perception, or we call thinking, skanda, was conditioned by the object of ants, was conditioned by the sound of thunder. And now you see your Zoom screen. Can you still see the picture of the ants in front of you now? Cannot, no more, right? And can you still hear the sound of the thunder from your PC now? No more, right? So the external objects, the objects of form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and your memories, they come and go. They are not impermanent. A minute before, they existed. Now a minute later, they vanished. So if you take that kind of mind, the mental process to be your mind, in exact, you take the thinking skanda or the sanya to be your mind, then you'll be in big trouble. Why? Because such kind of mind will be coming and going also. Correct? That mind is conditioned by impermanent objects. Then what is the characteristic of that kind of mind? Permanent or impermanent? Impermanent lah. Is it yours? Cannot be always yours because come and go. Things come and go. How can be yours? There's no self also. But we all think that mind is mine. My mind, correct? Correct? This is our mystic. Oh, I know this is an ant. I know this is the sound of thunder. Oh, this is my mind. This is our mystic, our big, big, big mystic. The Buddha is trying to point it out to us. That's why the Buddha said it's just a mental process. It's impermanent. It's not yours. It comes and goes. How can you take it to be your mind? Ananda. So no, Ananda is not your mind. So what have you learned? Whatever you perceive, whatever you understand, whatever you know, this mind, don't mistaken it to be your mind. First thing you have to learn from today's class. Don't mistaken it. This is my mind. Cannot. It's just a skanda, a sanya skanda, thinking skanda, or we call the perception skanda. And the Buddha later has brought up the concept of true mind. Why is it so? Because Ananda, Venerable Ananda, is still in the program of illusory mind. He still have to distinguish what is true and what is false. We call duality or relative, because the program of the illusory mind works in duality. White versus black, daytime versus nighttime, left versus right. So the illusory mind works in that way. Logic works in that way. Whereas true mind is beyond all conditions, beyond left, right, beyond black, white, beyond true, false. And because Venerable Ananda and all of us here, we are so used to the kind of program, left, right. If it is not left, it must be right. If it is not black, it must be white. So the Buddha temporarily explained in such a way, or there's actually a true mind. So that Venerable Ananda and all of us recognize that, oh, now this mind that perceives things is actually illusory. I have to let it go. Then I have to look for a true mind, for you to look for something for you to look for. This is the purpose. The Buddha brought up the idea of true mind, the concept of true mind. But actually, there should not be such a concept of true mind. Even the concept of true mind is still a concept. It's still not the true Dharma yet. But just for the sake of explaining to Venerable Ananda and all of us that we are so used to the illusory mind program, the Buddha has to explain in that way, progressively, sequentially, so that we can understand what the Buddha is talking about. And later on, in the later topic of the Shurangama Sutra, the Buddha said, actually, you have to even let go the concept of true mind. Then only your mind is true. It's absolutely true. So today the class is, there's a concept of true mind versus the illusory mind. So you let go the true mind and you try to ask, what is the true mind? What is the true mind? And later on we'll tell you, oh, the true mind has 10 characteristics. And later on at the end of the topic, then Buddha say, go and delete the concept of true mind. Then only your mind will be very true. So you understand the sequence of the Shurangama Sutra. So the Buddha teaches us, guides us in a so skillful way. We so blunt, so avidyak, also can understand. So now we talk about the concept of true mind. Bear in mind, this is just a temporal concept. And later on, we have to erase it. Because the Buddha said even metaphors, we cannot take metaphors to be the true Dharma. But without metaphors, we cannot understand. It's beyond our imagination. If something is beyond duality, it's out of our experience. We cannot even have a sense of it. And because of the sake of understanding it, the Buddha uses this kind of concepts but later on have to erase them. So if you want to share one more sutta given by the Buddha said, if you understand non-self or you understand self, it means you still have self. You understand? Listen carefully. Buddha tells us non-self ma, anatta ma. Oh, do you understand? Oh, yeah, there's non-self. Now I understand. Do you have self? Yes, sir. If you don't have self, how do you perceive there's non-self? There's anatta there. When you have said, oh, I understand. Actually, there's no self. At the very moment you say so, you already have self. And similarly, when you understand there is self, the other way, atma, when you understand there's self, you also have self. So how to get non-self, how to get ananta? It's not by perception. And you really have to go deep into your skandhas and dig all them out and then use your vipassana, your samadhi power, and your panya power, your wisdom power to break them, to decompose them. Then very moment is non-self. So now telling you there's such concept of true mind, and there are 10 characteristics of true mind. Don't think that you have already gained your true mind. Yeah, you're only understanding through yourself only. Later on, after that, you have to cultivate. Please remember this. So now we are just talking about the concept theory.
Jaya Graha